And we're back for another 10-minute recording of a podcast. And today, we're going to talk about... this is the odd thing. You would think that somebody like me who would be relatively smarter than he gives himself credit for would have an idea of what he was going to record before he sat down at the microphone. The truth is, I don't. And I don't because this is not a particularly well-organized podcast, but also because these are just the first 5 episodes. If I had an idea of what I was going to do with it, would it be a better podcast? Sure, but it's unlikely that a podcast is going to be the thing that transitions me from the professional world to fully immersed in the creative world. It just seems unlikely. Mostly because there are just so many freaking podcasts out there. But I'm going to throw my hat today into the acting ring. Because that's fun. Why not? Super fun. It's fun for everyone. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just fun for me. And what I've learned about acting. I brought this up the other day. I was talking about the statement, if you can imagine doing anything else in the world, then go do that. Don't be an actor because acting is really hard. And I talked about how foolish of a statement that was just in general. How it sort of is a foolish statement. Just stupid. But let me jump into the flip side of that statement today. Which is not so much that you shouldn't do acting. It's more that you should, like any career path, you should think carefully after trying it. You should think to yourself whether or not that this path is for you. Loving something is one ingredient. Or enjoying something. Or, hell, just getting a regular kick out of something is the first step. But you also have to have an affinity for it. And what do I mean by that? I don't just mean this microphone's bugging me. I don't just mean, I tried it once and it was the easiest thing in the world. No. Very often the things we do in life are not easy. At least I would hope not. Otherwise they would not be challenging and stimulating to our brains. But you have to step into the ring of acting, and you have to determine if you can do what acting requires, which is simply, in a lot of ways, it's just letting your guard down. And this was a huge struggle for me. And I don't know that I'm all the way through it. It was a huge struggle for me to learn how to not really learn. Let me try and make that make sense. Let me make something that's nonsensical make sense, because it's explained by a lot of acting coaches much better than the way I'm explaining it. So I would highly recommend reading. You've heard of Meisner. You've heard of Uta Hagen. I highly recommend their books for sort of a philosophical view on acting, just to kind of get in your head what it is. And the reason there's so many... The real reason why there's so many of these books and so many of these masters of acting is because actors really are relearning what children do inherently. Making believe. And it is specifically make believe and not pretend. Because somebody who is pretending comes off as very fake. And we see that almost immediately. You can tell when somebody's really... I am pretending to be a firefighter, versus somebody who says to themselves or is able to project that they are living the life of a firefighter. They are somebody who is living in the life. That is something that is interesting for us to see, because it's interesting for us to watch people live certain stories. And again, it's very easy to spot somebody who is pretending. And it's just as easy to get lost in the magic of someone making believe. So you actually have to have that ability to go backwards and be a child again, to just make pure believe, which is hard to do. You'd think it wouldn't be hard to do. You'd think, oh, I just have to be a kid again. That's the easiest thing in the world. No. It's really hard because kids don't think about it. They don't. If you ask a kid, if you send kids out into the backyard, I don't even know if kids go in the backyard anymore. That's a whole other topic of discussion. But you release kids into whatever play area they have. You come back 10 minutes later. None of them ever say, I'm pretending to be something. They say, I'm a cowboy. I'm a cowgirl. I'm an astronaut. I'm a cowboy astronaut. And they just are those things. And they're not faking it. They're not exactly living a complex story either, but they, for the brief time that they're playing the game, just are existing as whatever they've declared. They walk into the play area with their friends and they are a Power Ranger. They are whatever. They simply are. That is what you have to be able to do as an adult actor. And you have to be able to do it on a camera, keeping in mind certain technical concerns, like finding your lighting, remembering your lines, all these things that are just a little bit disconcerting enough that not everybody can pull them all together. And a lot of very smart people, a lot of very creative people can't pull it all together. Some people who are great writers are terrible actors. But they're great writers because they can come up with a story structure in their head, and that's their creativity. They can create these worlds and worlds and worlds of characters, but portraying one of those characters is the struggle. There are many actors who are terrible writers. The point of all this being, acting should not be considered like I'll just wander into acting one day, and that'll be my job. It'll be fine. Quite honestly, I'm giving this advice, and I wandered into acting. I went into acting 110% with no idea of how difficult it was going to be. I just happened to get lucky, and the more acting challenged me, the more I loved it. I actually was happier that I wasn't perfect at acting. I was happier that I was struggling, that I really, really, really struggled. Because it meant that I had a new challenge. Now, people who know me will say, like, Nick, wasn't law a challenge? Law was a challenge, 100%. I'm not sitting out here saying, like, I was a genius lawyer with no effort. No. I worked my ass off to try and be a good lawyer. The problem was I just didn't enjoy it, right? I just didn't enjoy the challenge of trying to be a lawyer, and it was because I didn't enjoy what I was doing. I loved my clients individually. I loved fighting for them. I hated paperwork. I hated memos. I hated case research. Not the fault of anybody who tried to teach me. Me being an actor should have failed. And if anybody said, hey, what do you think about me becoming an actor? I would tell them to think twice. It worked for me because I happened to end up loving it. This 110% could have backfired on me. It could have backfired on me very badly. I could have failed in the first year. And instead of failing in the first year, it just so happened to be something that I loved to do. Not advice that I would give anybody else. Don't follow in my footsteps. That said, if you do follow in my footsteps, give me a buzz. Shoot me a message. Happy to talk you through it. This has been 10 Minutes with Nick. Have a good night.